So first of all, thank you everybody for who participated and filled out the survey. I just this is a topic that I know we've been kind of wrestling with here at Eagan. And I thought it would be great to kind of just facilitate more of a discussion. I by no means am an expert on this. I'm looking for feedback and input. But I also thought it might be handy to have me kind of go through what we do with our GIS data requests. I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat. So, and then I do have John shared the results of the survey with me, and I just kind of grabbed some screenshots that might be helpful for everybody to take a look at. So again, just kind of facilitating this discussion, and hopefully we can have a good talk about this topic. So first of all, why are we discussing GIS data requests? Maybe obvious, but um, mainly because we want to be able to provide data to the public or contractors in a timely manner. It's part of our jobs. What we found is it often requires decisions and a fair amount of staff involvement from different levels, from managers to everybody in between, to GIS people actually addressing the data requests. So there's a lot of staff time involved. And in my case, and probably others too, there seems to be some potential for process improvement, especially with some of the newer technology that we have. So kind of how I set this up today is I'll just give an example of what we do in Eagan to process data requests and some of the goals that we have for improving that process. And then we can kind of take a look at the survey results in depth as we want to, and how all of you are handling some of your processes, and then have an open discussion about, what we're all doing and some ideas and any improvement ideas out there. So first of all, it's kind of obvious, but go through the data request lifecycle. First, we have an intake process of the request coming in. We're going out and preparing whatever the data is that was requested, delivering it in some way, and then doing some follow-up, hopefully, and documentation. So types of data requests that we're getting, and I think this is pretty universal, but we get a lot of data requests from contractors that are working for the city that are kind of part of a project. We get data requests from other government agencies, other cities, county, state, watershed districts and things like that, school districts. We get requests from the general public or companies, the public that aren't doing work for the city. And then also through Gopher State One Call utility locate. So those are kind of the main categories that we're getting requests from. How they're coming in is email, just an email from the public or a business or a contractor. In internal project need, that's a lot of them come from our engineering department or someone who is doing a project for the city, and along with that comes some GIS data requests. The Gopher State One Call ticket system. Sometimes they are just requesting as-built or paper maps or other types of data for utility locate. And then we also have our city clerk has a application called Next Request, and hopefully I can pull this up real quick here. This is what it looks like on our website, kind of embedded in our website. So this is for any public data requests, and some of our GIS requests come in through that. This is fairly new to us, so not all of them come that way. And so what do we provide? We provide data in various formats. We don't have a standard format we're providing. Obviously, the file geodatabase for our Esri-based GIS system is the easiest for us to provide. Map packages, even shape files, still quite a bit. CAD, PDF, imagery, sometimes KMLs as well. We do try to limit the data that we're providing to geographic areas and not provide the whole city if possible. I think that's pretty universal from some of the comments that came in through the survey. Don't want to have a lot of, especially our utility data floating out for the entire city. We do try to remove sensitive attributes, personal information, some maintenance records for utilities and other things like that, public safety information. And then we always do provide a legal disclaimer that we've had forever and has been run through our city attorney. We also have one that we put on some of our public maps as well on the web. How we're providing data, various ways. And I think this is an improvement we could probably make, but we do have a secure FTP that we can provide data on. And I would say that's probably where the majority of our, the most common way we share data. Still some through email if the files are small enough files and not too sensitive. Sometimes a contractor will have an FTP that, or SharePoint or something that we share data into their FTP. Through the Gopher State One Call ticket system, which also sometimes involves emailing data. We do have a couple of ArcGIS online web maps that we have shared data through or have given access to outside entities to kind of look at some of our utility data specifically. And then, of course, the next request city clerk system that I just showed you earlier. So those are kind of the ways we provide the data. Quite a few different ways, actually. As far as legal considerations, we always include a disclaimer with our map and our GIS data. We try to include metadata, including more schema specific per layer. It gets to be kind of a lot when you have a lot of layers, but we try to provide the metadata and accuracy and all the kind of standard metadata information that comes with GIS data. And also usage restrictions as far as, we don't want you sharing this with other entities, and that it's secure data, that, we're the owners of it. And so you need to, if you're going to use it, you need to abide by those security constraints. And also if it's something that's not our data, like, county parcels or something, we try to direct outside entities to go get data from the authoritative owner. So parcel data would be Dakota County in our case, whenever possible. As far as data retention, we keep track of our data requests in a help desk ticket system that we have had for the last about year and a half for GIS. And then we also just keep the files on our network right now. We haven't yet moved fully into SharePoint or OneDrive at the city. So we have a network drive that we keep track of all of our data requests and data that we sent. If it's coming through the next request system, that's something now that we're kind of transitioning into providing the records through that system, which is actually the official city data request application. And then sometimes through the Gopher State One Call system as well, their authoritative system. So some of the considerations for us and challenges is it seems like every time a request comes in for data that it is a little bit different. And so we have to work with others and oftentimes upper management to decide what to provide or what we can provide or what we're comfortable providing. And that can take quite a bit of time sometimes when you're working with multiple people. We also, struggle sometimes with what are we required to provide, public data. So I guess you could say we need to provide all of it, but in some cases we want to make sure that we're being very careful about sensitive or private data or public safety risk kind of layers that are out there. That's one reason why we limit it to hopefully a geographic area and not the entire city, when especially we're providing utility data. Also, it takes time to fulfill data requests from all different levels. Like I mentioned, people making the decisions to the city clerk and to the people that are packaging and exporting data layers and removing attributes and things like that. So we oftentimes have, we're getting assistance from multiple departments or different work groups to actually address the data request. So for us, and one of the reasons I brought this topic up at this group is we feel like we could improve our process. So some of the things that we want to do are possibly establish a clear GIS request guideline and policy so that it can be easier for us to address the data requests when they come in. That we would want to align with our overall city data request policy. Hoping that this could streamline our process and improve our customer service and make the data request process easier for everybody. I'd also like to empower our staff to kind of handle the data requests without having to always ask, specific questions to managers or department heads for each and every one if possible. Hopefully this would help reduce the turnaround time for each request. And then also keeping in mind that looking at some of the ways that we're doing things now, there might be some security considerations just with the way that we're providing data or the data that we aren't providing, and making sure that we're able to honor the requests and at the same time keep the data safe and keep the security measures in place. So some of the ways that we can see to improve this process are, again, having a clear policy just for GIS data, because this is a little bit different than some of the other data requests we get through our city clerk's office. Make sure that our communication process is clear and that we know who needs to be involved and who needs to know when a data request is coming in and how it's being processed. Maybe have some standard data sets that are kind of just ready to go that we can kind of package and send out and have that available to the public more quickly. And then maybe have some online map options. Like I mentioned, we do have a couple of those, but I think there's some gray area there, and I'm hoping to get some good discussion about that in this group to kind of find out what everybody's doing and, kind of the risks and the, maybe what you went through to kind of make the decisions on what to provide and how to provide it. So some of the tools I see to improve this process would be some GIS extraction tools, which we do use, and they need some updating, but that helps us kind of when we're kind of clipping out data and removing attributes. Possibly would be great if we could have an online self-service portal, but there are some challenges with that, and especially at the city level, having the ability to kind of create something like that is a little bit tough. And then again, like I mentioned, maybe having some prepackaged data sets that are just available to save some time for things that are requested often. So with that, thought we could go over the survey results and kind of just take a look at the summary of what all of you had to say about this topic, and maybe in the end we can talk about like what maybe is working for everyone right now, and also maybe some areas for improvement when we get into our open discussion. So I just kind of threw, it's kind of all I had time for, but I threw together some screenshots from the summary of the survey. So the question was, who handles GIS data requests? And mostly GIS staff, which makes sense. Most of the time you have to have the tools and software available to do that. So, where are the data requests coming from? Majority are coming from, kind of got cut off, but it's consultants that do work for the city. We're the most, and I would agree with that in our case. And also consultants aren't doing work. So it's kind of pretty even of other government agencies too, and go for state one call and general public. So we're getting them from a lot of different areas. The formats provided, I keep thinking that shapefiles someday are going to go away, but they're still a very popular method of exchanging GIS data. So, but file geodatabases are winning in this case, but also some, PDF maps, and I see that online maps are increasing here as well. So I'm interested to hear about that. Are we using extraction tools? The majority of us are, which is great to see. Make our lives a little bit easier. Some summaries about like what we're doing to restrict data. We all are pretty much doing something for the most part, restricting either by, and I kind of just summarized some of the comments that came through. Sharing data within the project limits, removing sensitive data. Uh, some are requiring data to be destroyed after it's used. And again, this is very true with us, the case by case judgment for by request coming in. And some of the reasons are for, security, sensitive data. Um, we need approval from upper management a lot of time to provide the whole city. I would agree with that in our case. And sometimes it's for unclear motives or political motives that we're not providing certain data. But mainly for safety risks is where we're not promoting or limiting what data we're providing. And the restrictions, personal area of interest, taking out extra fields that wouldn't mean anything to the end user, only the necessary attributes, asset IDs for utilities and things like that. Mostly just situational, that's what makes it hard to kind of standardize this, I think, is kind of a case-by-case basis. And then how are we keeping track? Mainly through emails and formal systems, so a little bit of both. And charging for data, I would say I would align with this too with Eagan. We haven't really had to run into this a whole lot, but we do have like a time threshold that we decided was kind of the limit, like over 30 minutes or over an hour, that we can charge for our time. But some cities do have a formal fee schedule. We do have a fee schedule, but I think some cities are a little bit more formal about it. And then kind of to summarize that, I think a lot of us are looking for a way to more formally track through a system. There's definite interest in a data warehouse and self-serve platform, and that these processes are processes for providing data are running from highly structured to very informal, and I would say that's on a case-by-case basis too in our case. And some cities forward requests to their Freedom of Information portal, but the data security and is very important for accessing and distributing the data.